You're now listening to From the Shed End, episode 111. Theo, as always, how you doing?
Not too bad. I feel like I hate myself for saying this because we're the 12th of Jan today, but I'm going to say Happy New Year because it's the first time we've recorded a pod since I think just before Christmas, I think 21st of December. So yeah, it's been a relatively good start to the year. Like we spoke about offline, I'm in the process of changing jobs, which is quite stress-free because not really having much work thrown my direction. So quite enjoying my Friday at the moment and looking forward to the weekend, obviously. But yeah, other than that, I'm doing good. Looking forward to the Australian Open, which is starting next week.
Yep.
Big fan of tennis and enjoyed a lot of darts and tennis over the kind of New Year and Christmas period, which was enjoyable as well. How are you doing?
Yep, like yourself, Happy New Year. Hope you had a good Christmas break and everyone else who's listening had a good Christmas, started the year fresh. But yeah, I'm good. Yeah, looking forward to the second half of the season. Looking forward to getting into the recording of the podcast. We had to take a little break. You know, sometimes you have to take a little break from recording, especially as a Chelsea fan at the moment. But no, it's been good. It's been good. Been good, as you said. You know, the darts was brilliant. Football. We've got the AFCON as well coming up. I think from tomorrow. I think it starts. The first game's tomorrow, Saturday. So looking forward to that. I think there's a game on midday. I think 2 p.m. every single day. So any of your working from home people, try and coincide your lunch break with AFCON. You should be able to catch some of that. But yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It's been up and down for Chelsea, though. Of course, you know we've had some really good wins, taking one step forward, and then we seem to be taking 3 steps back at the moment. So we're going to get into all of that hopefully in this episode. Before we do, as always, make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, like the video before you leave. And if you're on the audio version, please again make sure you hit the notification bell and also leave us some comments. Let us know your thoughts as what we're going to be discussing throughout the episode as well. But let's start with what we hoped to have done last week. Obviously I've got 2 kids in the house, so we couldn't have recorded last week, but let's go back to obviously there's the start of the season and where we are currently at the moment in terms of our rankings for best player, worst player, best performance so far under Chelsea for this season or for 2023. But we've got a couple of categories that I think you pulled together. We've chosen obviously player of the year, worst performing player of the year, best game of the year, worst game of the year, and the overall rating of Chelsea's season so far. I think it's only best for us really to start with the player of the year, and I'm going to let you go first. Who have you got as your pick for so far as the player of the year for Chelsea?
So I think I've done things slightly differently. When I sent this over to you on WhatsApp, I've done it for the 2023 calendar year.
Okay.
So from 1st of Jan 2023 to 31st of December 2023. And obviously it's quite hard to pick a player of the year because half our squad from last season left in the summer. And then we brought in a bunch of new players, or some players that arrived in January just didn't perform. So I just went for the player that was the most consistent performer throughout that 365 days. And also the player that won our player of the season for last year, which was Thiago Silva for me. And I think his game against Luton, our final game of 2023, kind of sums him up as a player. And also his reaction after the Middlesbrough defeat, when he went up to one of the very few players that went up to the fans to almost apologise, sums up the type of person he is. And I think I put a tweet out about this. I do worry when he leaves, who will kind of fill that void in terms of the leader he is, the kind of responsibility he shows when things go wrong or when things go well, and just the consistency as well in his performances. So yeah, I've gone with Thiago Silva as my 2023 player of the year.
It's a good shout. It's a very good shout, and I agree with you. He's as good. I've done mine slightly different. So, and I did, as I said before we started recording, I was thinking about doing 20, obviously, January, December calendar year for my picks, but I've gone for seasonal. So I've gone from obviously the start of this season to where we are present day at the moment. And I agree with Thiago Silva is a rock in not just defence, but I think you can tell the winner's mentality that he's got. He's one of few in that team at the moment that's got that. You can see the anger when he walks off the pitch. You can see his anger when there's a mistake made in the back line, or we're letting a stupid goal. You can see that so much in him. I agree with you. We've said it before on here that if we lose someone like Thiago Silva, not just on the pitch but in the dressing room as well, it's a massive void, and it's somewhere that who picks up the baton after Thiago Silva. There isn't many. and we've said that before. So it's a massive concern. I've gone for, obviously, as I said, I've gone for the season in terms of where we are from August to now. I've actually gone for Cole Palmer. I've gone for Cole Palmer. The reason being is I feel that Cole Palmer, albeit he came in, I think for 46 million, I might have got that wrong, the 40 million pound mark, but he's come in and he looks like a breath of fresh air. You can tell that he's come from City's team. He looks like the one that's going to make something happen on the ball. Even taking away the goals that he scored against, I'm trying to think, was it Preston? I feel like it was Preston or maybe Nottingham Forest.
Luton, the 2 goals
against. Sorry, I was trying to think of the ground, Kenilworth Road, the Kenny as they like to call it. Even him doing that, I mean, he looks like he's someone that wants to take the ball forward, score the goals. I think we'd be lost without him. I'll be honest. I think if we didn't have Cole Palmer in that team for this season, I would struggle to understand where these goals are coming from for this attacking line. I just don't see it, from Raheem Sterling as much, who, I did have as an honourable shout out, but I don't see where the goals are coming from. And, defensively, Thiago Silva makes sense, but for me, Cole Palmer going forward is arguably our saving grace going forward.
Yeah, no, I think if I was doing it as well for the season, I would go with Cole Palmer as well. I think he's been a catalyst in many of the games, including that Luton one you mentioned. I think he's on double figures for goals and assists combined, which is very impressive given it's his first season at Chelsea. Made it into the England fold now as well, thanks to his performances with Chelsea. I think we had to pick a second player, maybe to kind of close contender for Cole Palmer. I would have gone with Conor Gallagher as my second choice for the season. But yeah, I did it differently. I did it for the calendar year of 2023. So I went with Silva, but I did kind of consider putting Cole Palmer's name in the hat, even for 2023, given how kind of game-changing some of his performances have been.
Next one, I think will probably be maybe not, but I think it might be very similar between the two of us. So we've gone for the worst performing player of the year so far. As you said, 2023 for yourself and me for a seasonal. But who have you gone for as the worst performing player so far?
So I've got my little notes here. So there's 2 names I wrote first. I wrote Cucurella and Mudryk's names first.
Okay. Yep.
Just given how poor they've been throughout the year. Sure, Cucurella had a bit of a pickup, I think, around September, October time. And Mudryk just hasn't lived up to his price tag. He's been in and out of the team. He can't really run with the ball. He crossed the ball. He doesn't look comfortable in front of goal. Sure, he's very young, so I kind of still want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I actually didn't go for any of those 2 players, given that I've done this for 2023. I've gone with Mason Mount as the player that I kind of feel, I kind of called it the category worst player of the year. And I think that's because he underperformed when he was fit last season, given that he was our player of the season the year before. And also all the kind of lies he fed to us, gone to United, and a video of him in the dressing room with his father saying this is what we've dreamt of. Yeah, I'm home or whatever. I'm just like, nah, it just didn't really sit well with me. So sure, I think I kind of went for a mix of like how he handled the whole transfer situation, the contract talks, and his just performance last season. I just feel like had he just given it a bit more, had he just focused on Chelsea and not the whole kind of transfer speculation linking him to United early on in the season, I think we could have maybe had some better results on the pitch. I think, this time last year, we just signed João Felix and we were talking about who we're going to keep next season. Is it going to be Felix? Is it going to be Mount? And we both agreed it should have been Mount. And I remember literally having this conversation on the pod, and now both of them are gone. Mount's at United. He's underperformed. I'm really happy with that. But he also underperformed at Chelsea throughout. Really was my worst player of the year.
Yeah, it's a good shout. I think he's someone that clearly fell out of love very quickly with the club. The fans fell out of love with Mason Mount as well. I think he's still struggling now. You look at him at Manchester United. I think I don't know if he's injured or if he's not getting the games at the moment. But Mudryk's a good one as well. I just want to see Mudryk get a run of games consistently in that team before I swing the guillotine, because I just need to see with a run of games how he performs. And I think you just hit the nail on the head by saying that he's in and out of the team, and I think that could be a problem for him. I'm not saying that when he plays he should be playing as bad as he is, because he's played awful. Like we can both sit there and say that, but I just want to see what he does with 4 or 5 games back to back consistently under his belt to see if that makes a difference. If it doesn't, then we've been flogged a donkey as a horse. It's just poor. I've gone for Nicholas Jackson, and it might raise a couple of question marks as to why. Yes, I think he's very young still, very raw. Shouldn't really be our our number 9 leading us through every weekend, but it's some of the basic stuff that I feel that Nicholas Jackson, as a striker, as a professional footballer, should be doing, that he doesn't do. The runs that he should be making, the space that he should be occupying, the chances that he misses. I mean, I think we said before last year, there's a compilation of him where the amount of goals he should be scoring that he misses, and some of them are basic things that, as a striker, whichever level you're playing at, whether it's the top level or if it's a lower league, you should still be making the goalkeeper work, and he doesn't do that enough for me. And I just look at him and I just think, you should be the one getting the goals. You should be our top goal scorer. You should be the one that, has 15 goals by now. Almost 20 goals this season. I know people say that's a lot for your first season in the Premier League, but if you look at some of the chances that he's missed, and just some of the basic stuff, as I said, I'm almost warming to the idea that he's not actually a natural striker. Maybe he should be playing off one of the wings, maybe the left side of the wing, the attackers. But I just look at him and I don't see him as a striker. There was a game, I think, recently, just before he went to the AFCON, and he moved to the wing, and he actually looked more comfortable playing off, I think it was off the left side, and he looked more comfortable playing off that wing as opposed to playing as the main striker. So I just look at him and I think he is poor. And the fact that we dubbed him, I wouldn't say we never, but people were dubbing him the new Didier Drogba. You just look back and thought, wow, what were we thinking? We're going to get onto the Chelsea fans later, actually, but what were we thinking by calling him that? So for me, Nicholas Jackson has to be my worst performing player of the year so far.
It's a shout, yeah, it is a shout, and I do agree with you. In that Luton game, when he played, I think, behind Broja, almost as the kind of centre forward who plays behind the striker, he actually looked quite good, and that's one of his best games in the Chelsea shirt. And that pass he played to Cole Palmer for the 3rd goal was very, very good. But I do agree with you. The fact that you got those compilation videos of about 15 sitters that he's missed, and he's only 6 months into his career is quite telling. I do expect more from him, but I also know for a fact from what I've seen from him so far has proved to me that he's not got the right mentality or the right set of skills to be our number 9 that we're going to need. And like you said, a few of us kind of maybe made Drogba comparisons. He picked the number 15 shirts. He's from Africa. He didn't come with a big kind of reputational price tag. So yeah, I think we'll kind of hang our heads in shame kind of with those remarks. But yeah, I think it's a shout for maybe the season that's currently ongoing at the moment.
Yeah, definitely 100% now. Best game of the year. I feel like I need to change mine, but I'm going to stick with it because I've done mine obviously from August onwards. But what's your game of the year for 2023?
Yeah, so I've got 3 games. Obviously, 2023 was a pretty dire year in terms of the football we played.
You've got 3 to be
fair. Yeah, I mean, it was a very dire year, and I think we only had about 5 home wins. So I think the logical ones that I can think of and kind of spring to mind, because they were quite recent, were the 4-1 win over Spurs. I think it was in November. Really entertaining game. I almost lost my voice at the end of it. Or the VAR controversy that happened. Obviously, the Jackson shameless hat-trick that he scored, but it's still 3 goals. And then doing the Ronaldo celebration and scoring 4 against Tottenham. It's always enjoyable. The second one, again, this season is the 4-4 draw with City. I thought that was some of the best football we played under Pochettino. Despite, we got a point, and it was Anthony Taylor who was the referee, awarded that penalty a bit controversially, and to score last minute equaliser against City was quite a good feeling as well. But the one I've gone with, so this was actually not this season, it was the previous year. We were still playing in Europe, believe it or not. But it was the home game against Borussia Dortmund. Probably one of the last games I can kind of recall where I left Stamford Bridge just thinking I really enjoyed that. That was the Chelsea I remember watching. We kind of mounted one of those famous Champions League comebacks. We lost the first leg 1-0. Havertz scored and Sterling scored. It just felt one of those games where when you're just hugging random people around you, and you're so excited.
Yeah.
I was sat in Shed Upper, which is my favorite section to sit in. And I thought we played really well in that game as well. I thought we controlled it. And it kind of made me think, all right, if we play like this against one of the big teams like Borussia Dortmund, maybe there is a bit of a glimmer of a hope for Graham Potter. And I think he went on to say we're going to win the fucking Champions League the week after when we drew Real Madrid. And that didn't really bode well or go to plan. But for me, that game against Dortmund was quite special, particularly went to the first leg in Germany. So I felt like I had a connection to that kind of tie against Borussia Dortmund. And the second leg for me was just one of the special Champions League nights that I'm going to remember for a long time. So that's my choice.
The good old days of the Champions League. Yeah. I've gone for the 4-4, the Man City game, more recently as well. Like you just had there. I think that game for me, like you said, was probably the best football we've played under Maurizio Pochettino, but also the fight and the desire for me up until the end of the game, even into stoppage time, I think is when the penalty was awarded to us from Broja. I think it was Rodri with the tackle. I might have got that wrong, but I think it was a last-ditch tackle from I think it was Rodri in the box. Lovely bit of dummy.
Was it Diaz? Maybe I think Diaz or Rodri. Yeah,
it was one of the two. I think you're right with Diaz. And we fought to the very end. And to be fair, we should have. I think the only thing I'll take from that game, it was our best game, but also in some ways it was our worst game because we should have actually won the game. When you look back on it, you look at the Akanji goal, the marking for that was poor. We made the mistake, I think, for the first goal, the City goal as well, the third one. So we should have actually gone on to win that game. We kind of made it a bit easy for Man City to come back in at spells. But I thought we fought to the very end, and it was that Chelsea squad, the season before, even the season before that, probably would have collapsed, had it gone 2-1 to City or, 3-1, it could have been a cricket score. But we carried on fighting, we got the goals. You could tell the fans were on top of the City players as well. It felt like an old Chelsea game, which is one of the things we spoke about offline, and it doesn't really feel like that when you go to Stamford Bridge anymore. But it just showed that there was fight and desire in that team. And albeit we walked away with a point, but it was a point well deserved and a point that we fought for. So I was impressed with the team, the setup, the line. It was just everything was right. And if I remember correctly, you're quite good at. Your memory's better than mine, but I'm pretty sure we lost the game after that.
Yeah, we had the international break straight after, and then we came back and lost 1 to Newcastle. So yeah, you're right.
That was it.
And it was the first time we scored against City. First time we scored against Man City since the Champions League final in 2021.
Yeah.
So yeah, celebrating 4 goals. When it rains, it pours. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was mine. But let's move on. Let's move on to the worst game of the year so far this season, or for the year.
This one's probably harder because there's more to pick from, I feel.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I've gone with one. I think you highlighted it a lot because I think you called for Potter to potentially get sacked at this point of last year. And it was when we lost 1-0 to Southampton at home, February 2023, I believe. I was sat in Matthew Harding Low, and I just remember it being one of the most frustrating and lackluster performances I've watched in a very long time. And just kind of, I just pulled it up right now, but Southampton finished last year rock bottom with 25 points. And they beat us home and away that season. So they picked up 6 points. 6 of their 25 points were against us. Maths, and that's about 25% of their total points tally came against Chelsea. So yeah, for me, that was an embarrassing performance. I remember it was a Ward-Prowse free kick. And as soon as you give Ward-Prowse, a set piece in that area, he's going to score it. You might as well get him in a penalty. Then that make things worse. I think Azpilicueta got concussed or got really badly injured.
It was, that was that game.
So it was a really kind of frustrating, annoying afternoon, and probably one of the worst kind of Chelsea performances I've watched in a very long time. There's a lot of other ones to choose from this year, but I just remember being particularly annoyed after that one. And I remember that's when it really turned toxic on kind of Twitter, calling for Potter to get sacked. So yeah, that was a really my worst game of the season for 2023.
I think for me, and I remember that game, I put money on the goal, which was not the silver lining, I can tell you, because I'd rather have had 3 points. But I've gone for this season as well. I've gone for United, Old Trafford 2-1. I think I did a video after that game, and I was going to do the video straight after, and I didn't. I was still angry the day after. And I think on that video, I said it was the worst performance in over 30 years that I've watched of Chelsea. And I still stand by that. That was probably the worst game of football at not even just at Old Trafford, I think just in general that Chelsea have played. It was just poor from start to end. There was nothing. There was no desire, no fight from the team. And I really felt then at that point, I mean, that game could probably spell a lot of trouble for Maurizio Pochettino. It wasn't even that long ago, but I just feel that game was a massive game. We had to win it, for me anyway. We didn't have the best of records at Old Trafford before that, but we should still be putting in a bit more of a fight. And I didn't see that from, I think even the goals were silly goals that we conceded against United in that game. But it's just poor. It was a poor performance overall. I think Cole Palmer scored for us on that night. But yeah, I mean, I've tried to erase it from the memory, so I don't actually recall the whole event of the game, but it was just a poor performance from us overall. I think Mudryk started that game, if I remember correctly. Is that the game I think Reece James had to be subbed off? So yeah, I mean, it was just a poor game for us. I still stand by, that game, albeit it was 2-1, was probably the worst game of football I've watched as a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, no, I remember that one that did come to my mind as well. On paper, you think 2-1 defeat at Old Trafford. Probably think your team must have played quite well, defended fairly well, created some chances, but we really didn't.
No.
I think Palmer's goal was maybe one of our only shots on target. They could have scored a lot more on the night. I think Garnacho had an abundance of chances. They missed a penalty through Bruno Fernandes. Robert Sanchez saved it. And it was a really poor performance. And then I think that was a midweek fixture that same weekend. We lost 2-0 to Everton, and that was the game where Reece James got subbed off injured. So just that whole week was just abysmal, and really kind of, like you said, it almost meant alarm bells for Pochettino's future. I think luckily we kind of had a bit of a boost in confidence after the cup win against Newcastle, but that early December period was quite shocking. I agree.
Yeah, definitely. Now let's try and sum up what we've just discussed in terms of the overall rating so far for the year for 2023. How do you, out of 10, what would you give the year for Chelsea? Obviously, Champions League, coming out of the Champions League, sacking Potter, appointing Lampard, hiring Maurizio Pochettino after signing so many players. But what would you give the year, I suppose, overall out of 10?
I think it's probably been one of the worst years I remember supporting Chelsea, watching Chelsea, kind of believing in the vision that Chelsea are trying to create. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. And the only reason I'm giving it a 2 out of 10 is because the last 3 or 4 months, I believe we've played better football than we did under Graham Potter and last season.
Yeah.
And then maybe an extra mark simply because I ticked off 2 matches or stadiums that were on my bucket list for a long time, away days in Borussia Dortmund at the Signal Iduna Park, and away to Real Madrid, which was very special as well, albeit we lost both of them and didn't score a single goal. But those were just 2 bucket list moments for me, being in those stadiums, watching Chelsea against their respective teams. So yeah, a point for just a bit, the football that we've played recently has been slightly more promising, and a point for those 2 away games. So yeah, I'll give it a 2 out of 10.
I went for, I mean, I was really tempted to give 1, but I've gone for 3 out of 10, very similar to you. And I did do the overall rating actually over the year, so I did include the last season as well as this season, so I've done the whole of 2023. But I still think, I'm thinking more so as well off-field issues and transfers, recruitment, the fact we brought in so many players, some of them have left already. Look at Koulibaly, who I know was signed the year before, but it's still, we still sold him already. I feel like we lost a lot of quality, but we lost a lot of experience in that team. Kante, Kovacic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Azpilicueta, all these players that, yes, we know we needed to move on, but to do it in a big bang in that sort of situation, I think has obviously costs us a lot now because we've got a lot of inexperienced players playing in the team. I look at our position in the league at the moment, 10th. I know just before Christmas we were actually better off with Graham Potter than we was in terms of where we are with Mauricio Pochettino. I'd hope that has changed since then, with the couple of games that we've played. But
there was a World Cup, to be fair. So there's a World Cup, so we didn't play a lot of football around that November-December period, which maybe did Graham Potter some favours, kind of keeping him in the job or holding that position.
It's a good shout. I mean, it's still never going to be above a 5 out of 10 at the moment for me, and I don't think it will be for a long time, because I think there's so much which we're hopefully going to touch on within this podcast episode as well, around what we need to do to try and change things to try and get us back into top 4, going for trophies. I think there's still time for us to do that this season. I think even without the transfers that we hopefully want to try and bring in, but if we can try and overcome the second leg against Middlesbrough and get to the final, win a trophy, then obviously boost it up. But as it stands at the moment, you'd probably have to say it's a 2 or a 3 out of 10 this season, or this year so far, or last year. Sorry, it's not been a good year for Chelsea fans at all.
Yeah, should we meet halfway and say 2.5 then?
2.5. Let's go 2.5. Let's be diplomatic. Yeah, 2.5. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you think. Let us know who was your pet player of the year, worst signing, best performance of Chelsea, and the worst one as well. What would the overall rating be? Let us know your thoughts in the comments of the video.